Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden and today we are doing a good, bad, and ugly on the mother truckin' Honda Civic 6th generation, or the EK Civic, which is commonly referred to as, but we'll learn today that that is not the only chassis code that this car goes by, baby. Obviously, the way that this good, bad, and ugly works is first I go over the history of the car, just like kind of, you know, what it comes with, engine size, drivetrain, all that kind of stuff. Then I go over the modding scene, like what people usually do to modify these cars, and then finally we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, which are just, you know, points about the car that you have to make. Before we get into this video, I want to thank you guys for all the recent support that we've been getting. We're getting like 100 subscribers like every other day. It's insane. It's actually mind-blowing, so thank you guys so much. You guys are really supporting it. I'm trying my best to make the best content out there. I'm trying to change up a bunch of things and get a bunch of things better quality. I have a green screen I'm trying to put up here and trying to figure out how to use that. I'm taking my glasses off now so there's no glare. I'm trying here, all right, boys? So stick with me. Let me know anything that you guys would like to see me like change around, and I could do that in the future videos. Also, let me know obviously what cars you'd like to see for good, bad, and uglies. We're also working on doing car reviews, which is going to be a blast. I hope I can review like every car out there. I want to review a freaking Honda Fit. Like, I want to review everything. Okay, so if you got a car and you live in the New England area, even if it's a stock boring car, hit me up on Instagram at ss.markey, and we will go about doing the car reviews. Also, if you guys want to support the channel any more than you already are, head on over to www.smoothstance.com/shop to pick yourself up any hats, shirts, or shorts. It's becoming summertime, so get in those nice clothes. I know I'm in a hoodie right now, but that's because it's cold in my basement, so I'm not going to be wearing no t-shirt down here. Anyway, not going to waste any more of your time. I'm sorry for the super long intro. Let's get right into the video. Alright, so this is going to be a long one today. You guys are going to have to stick with me because the Honda Civic 6th generation has a lot of stuff to it. First off, the car was built from the years 1996 to the year 2000, and it went by multiple different chassis codes. And pretty much there is the EJ, the EK, and the EM chassis codes. There's also going to be a number after those chassis codes, though. So, for example, EJ6 or EM1. But going into that will just literally confuse you like crazy, and honestly, it's confusing me too. When I looked it up, it was just like, I don't understand what the difference is between like an EM1 and an EM2. It's so hard. But just know that there's 3 different chassis codes for this generation Civic, and whichever trim level and the body option that you decide to get will decide the number after the base chassis code, if that makes any sense. So if you get like an EK, but you get a hatchback LX version of it, then it might be a different chassis code than if you got an EK, but it's a coupe LX version. You know what I mean? It's going to be all different. Now, since this is a Civic, there's also a decent amount of trim levels to it, and they go like this in order from worst to best. You have the CX, the DX, the LX, the EX, the HX, the GX, the VP, the SI, and finally you have the Type R, which was only available in Japan, but is easily the best in terms of performance. I know that's a lot, but it'll make more sense in a little bit when we go over the engine options. Now, this generation Civic, just like almost every Civic out there, was offered as either a sedan, a coupe, or a hatchback for whichever one that you need. So if you want a hatchback, go for a hatchback. If you want a coupe, go for a coupe. Personally, I like the coupes the best. But we're going to jump right back into the trim levels one more time in order to also discuss the many engines that this car decided to come with. Starting with the CX, the DX, the VP, and the LX, they all use the same motor. It's called the D16Y7, and that, my friends, was a 1.6 liter inline-4 making only 106 horsepower, which is easily the slowest and cheapest option available. Next would be the HX, which had a D16Y5. Once again, it was a measly little 1.6 liter inline-4, but this one had something called VTEC E, which is not this normal VTEC, okay, much different. And it pushed it up to 113 horsepower, which is a little bit more, but nothing crazy. Next would be the EX, that came with, once again, a 1.6 liter inline-4, but this one was called the D16Y8, which actually has the normal VTEC that we all know and love, and that managed to push out 127 horsepower. So if you can't afford an SI model, this one would definitely be the best model to pick. Next would be the SI, obviously, which actually was a pretty significant jump. It was now a dual overhead cams in 1.6 liter inline-4 with VTEC, while the rest were only single overhead cams, which managed to make 160 horsepower. By the way, that engine is called the B16A2, so it even goes by a different letter. A pretty decent engine to make power out of. And lastly would be the Type R, which came with a B16B that was pretty much the same as the SI motor, but managed to push out 182 horsepower instead due to stronger internals. I know that your brain is like freaking soup right now, but it gets easier from here. That's all the hard parts. That's all the confusing stuff out of the way. By the way, the car was only available as a front-wheel drive car, just like every single Honda under the sun. And it did come with either a manual or automatic transmission, but the automatic transmissions are absolute slush boxes. So if you want to have a fun car, I would highly recommend waiting until you can find a manual. Finally, now that all that stuff's out of the way, we can get into the modifying world of this car. And these cars are pretty much used for almost anything from track, stance, street, and drag. There's even a damn rear-wheel drive swapped one of these by Jimmy Oaks on YouTube, so they have been drifted before too. They literally can do anything that you want them to, and it makes sense. They are cheap, they're lightweight, they're easy to build, and they're reliable as hell, so people build them for whatever it is that they want to build them for, and they know that they can take it. I would say that the biggest group, however, for this car would be the street category. Those, you know, those loud Hondas that you hear drive by your house at 3 a.m. Usually, they're actually pushing some decent power for their weight, and even though they do sound terrible, that doesn't mean that they aren't fast. And people build these cars to be street cars almost all the time. Plus, due to the insane reliability, people don't have to worry about them braking on the roads, which is a huge plus. That's a big, big deal. That's why all these people tow their drag cars to the tracks and their track cars to the tracks, because they're not going to be able to make it on their normal roads. Well, the Honda Civic is reliable as hell, so you can drive it on the roads and you can do whatever you want to it. Stance and track-oriented builds are a very close second, and I would say drag builds are a third. Track-oriented because I know you're thinking, oh, it's just a Civic, but these Civics are actually pretty damn good, man. If you just change over some suspension parts, they handle like a dream. And stance builds, obviously, because it's a Civic, everybody wants to stance anything nowadays. The Civic is an easy contender for that. Alright, so now we're here. We are at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way this works, in case you're new here, is first we're going to go over the good, which are things that are just handy, dandy, mandy, great about the car. Then we're going to go over the bad, which are kind of like take it or leave it things. If it bothers you, then that's a bad. If it doesn't bother you, then it's a good. And then the ugly, which are just bad things that you can't admit, which you can't lie are bad about the car. But right off the bat, let's start with the good. The car is cheap as hell. You can find a Honda Civic 6th Gen SI for under $5,000, and any other trim can be found for, I'm not joking here, as low as $1K. My friend Zach bought a 6th Gen hatch, and he bought it for like $800. It was freaking great. Next would be they're reliable as hell. I mean, they are a Honda Civic. They're one of the most reliable cars of all time, and it was built in the years where they were really focusing on reliability. It's reliable. Next would be the aftermarket support. For both cosmetics and performance, these cars have everything under the sun built for them. Makes sense, there's a lot of them out there, so a lot of companies want to make money, and so they made a lot of parts for them. They're all the way out there. If you want to build a Civic, you can build it to however you want to. Next would be the aftermarket parts will also be dirt cheap. Everything about the car is just like for broke boys, okay? The car price, broke boy material. The parts, broke boy material. It's super easy to build these cars is what I'm trying to say. Next would be the gas mileage and daily drivability. Even if you don't want to turn this into a little race car, it's still a good choice because it saves you so much money in gas and repairs. It's a reliable ass car that gets pretty damn good gas mileage, and it's lightweight and doesn't burn up a lot. It's just a good car, man. Next would be how easy it is to work on. I personally think that if you just want a car to learn mechanics on, and you have no idea how to work on a car yet, but you want to learn somehow, this is the best choice out there. They're dirt cheap, Honda Civics are super easy, not advanced at all, and you have a lot of space to make errors, and they're reliable if you do make a little bit of an error. Next is the car has cup holders. I always mention cup holders, this one has them, gotta love it. Next is they handle surprisingly well from what I've heard. Now, obviously you are going to have to change over a couple suspension pieces for that to happen, but if you do that, they handle like a damn dream, which is pretty cool. Finally is, if you can't tell by now, this car is the perfect daily driver, especially if you only modify suspension things. Suspension isn't going to make it unreliable, and you'll get to experience the wonderful handling of the car. In case you don't know, the Civic Type R pretty much just changed over some freaking suspension parts, buddy, okay? Yes, they made it a little bit faster, but pretty much only changed the suspension parts. And the Civic Type R, pretty good little car to track. Now it is time to get into the bad, and right off the bat is the sound. I gotta say, usually I always put these in bads, but I really wanted to put this one into the ugly because this is all personal preference, but I think it sounds terrible. But it's up to you, so it's in the bad. Here's a clip. Next is the looks. Once again, this is personal preference, but personally, I only like the coupes of this generation. I think the hatchbacks and the sedans are kind of ugly. I know the hatchback Type R is pretty cool, but that's very unrealistic. The coupes are really cool, but besides that, there's nothing really like standing out, but I don't think they were trying to be. Next is we didn't get the damn Type R version in the United States. That sucks. I'm mad about that. Next is they are pretty much all going to be hoopties and have to be a project car at this point. Okay, so yes, you can find a good one, but it's not going to be cheap. All right, If you want a good 6th gen Civic, you're going to be spending a lot of money. And that sucks. Every time you go to look at one, you're going to be like, wow, this thing's a pile of junk. And it is. It's going to be a pile of junk. And that's definitely a bad. Next is the interior. I like the simple old interiors a little bit better, but if you like Mercedes style interior, like really high quality, new, modern interior, this is absolutely not the car for you. Next is they are front wheel drive. I don't really like front wheel drive, but some people do, I guess, so it's in the bad. Next is they are slow. I mean slow when they're bone stock. Even the SI model doesn't really hold a candle to a lot of cars out there today, but luckily you can modify it to be very fast for pretty cheap, so that's good. But if you just wanted to keep it stock and you wanted to have fun with it, it might be a little bit hard to do that. Next is this car has airbag light problems, I guess. That's not a big issue at all, but if you care, then it's there. Next is the motor mounts tend to go pretty frequently. I mean, this can be a problem on some cars. My 350Z motor mounts were an absolute nightmare, but I can't imagine that on a Honda Civic this is going to be like a hard thing to change, so it's probably not that big of a deal, but if it is, then it is. I'm not 100% sure. And finally is the shift control solenoid will sometimes fail. This can obviously be a massive issue, but once again, due to the car being just so dirt cheap and so easy to work on, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Now we're into the ugly, which are things that are just bad about the car, and there's literally only one that I can think of, and that is that the car is built cheaply. I know you're not buying luxury if you're buying a 1999 Honda Civic, but the things that were built cheaply are those kinds of things that you're gonna put them off because they're not that big of a deal, but then over time you'll get more and more, and then you'll start to get more and more annoyed at the same time. Like, they're just those little tiny things that are just gonna keep piling up and start to bug you, and it's just gonna make you think that the car's a hoopty. Like, the power windows fail, the dash cracks and creaks, the seats rip and they aren't too comfy after a while, the windshield wipers sometimes just won't work, the hood release might snap, and that, yes, that is all very small stuff, but like I said, it's going to add up and just tend to make you feel like it's a shit box, even though it really isn't. It's just an old daily driver that's falling apart now because it's 20 years old and hasn't been really taken care of. That's the one thing I have to say about it. That's bad. Everything else, it's a great car. So, do I, Mark Rodin, think that you should get a 6th generation Honda Civic? Well, abso-positively, my boy. Why not? Even though this car does kind of strike all the boxes for a fun car guy car, I do have to say that there is a certain kind of guy who would absolutely hate these things, and that is the guy who likes the top-of-the-line stuff. The guy who buys Mercedes or the newest model of whatever car he's a fan of. Like, if you liked 350Zs like me, and every time a new Z car came out, you bought that. People that like that stuff, the modern interiors, the nice new interiors, they will most likely hate this car because, like I said before, it's a project car that you can daily. So if you like tuning or you just need a fun first car to learn mechanics on while seeing significant changes for pretty dirt cheap, then this is an obvious choice. But if you like the life of luxury or you don't want to be seen in a 90s Civic, which I can't really blame you for that, probably not the car for you. Oh, and drifters too. Obviously, don't buy a front-wheel drive car if you like drifting. That's just stupid. I shouldn't have to tell you that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the end of today's Good, Bad, and Ugly. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below a car that you want to see in next Good, Bad, and Ugly. I always go off of your comments, so if you want to see a car. Now, you have to understand there's a lot of people that comment things, so it's not like I'm going to be able to do everybody's car. It takes a while. I do like one a week, and so if I'm only doing one a week, then how am I going to do like 20 different people's Good, Bad, and Uglies? You know what I mean? But I hope you guys enjoyed either way. I hope you guys are enjoying the channel. We're going down today to review one of my friend's Mercedes. I'm super excited. It's nothing really super special or super crazy, but it is a cool car. And hopefully it can start something new. Hopefully a bunch of other people will be like, hey, this is a good idea. And they'll start to send me their cars and be like, hey, can you review my car? And we'll meet up and be able to review more and more cool cars and build our way up from here. That'd be awesome. So, you know, the end goal is to review a freaking Koenigsegg Agera, but if in 2 years from now I'm still reviewing Toyota Priuses, I'll be happy with that. I just want to review cars. I think it's going to be fun for me, for you guys, to hopefully make it a little bit easier for you guys that are looking to buy cars and actually see how they perform and stuff like that, and actually get an opinion on them that I form based off of my own, you know, experiences. So it should be fun. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop wasting your time. I'm talking so much today. I have diarrhea of the mouth today. But anyway, have a nice day. Das Vidania. Have a nice night. I said it twice.